I think there are two problems. One, it is indeed true that although globalization has generated a great many benefits for countries in aggregate, there has been a real problem in terms of making sure that those gains seep down to every level of society. And some states do this better than others. It all depends on the particular social contract that is in place. I also think there's a second problem, which is that academics, international organizations, policymakers haven't done a very good job in really explaining to people what have been those gains of globalization. And so I think we saw this in the case of Brexit as well, that the Brexit campaign was very loud and it seemed to just drown out the Remain campaign. And the Remain people didn't do such a good job in explaining what is it that Britain really gets out of belonging to the European Union. So I think it's a very similar problem in globalization.
So if you accept that the current form of globalization isn't working, what would you do instead?
One of the big things would have to be all the leaders of the G20 really take into account, reconsider what global public goods countries are willing to provide. They themselves, but also the other members of the international community. It's not going to be just free trade as we knew it, perhaps. It might look like a different form of free trade. Or is it food security or is it food sovereignty? Then they need to bring in the marginalized many in the process. This means countries that feel that they have been excluded from decision making since the Second World War, right? So this is not only about the G20, and people within countries. So that includes people who feel marginalized in developed countries and developing countries. And then, no matter how we renegotiate globalization and try and come with a fairer form, it's going to be impossible to do this without making sure that there is enough space in the international framework of rules that allows countries to take measures that can redistribute the benefits of globalization. And this will vary from country to country, so it cannot be imposed from the top.
But hold on, you're advocating more free trade or different free trade, but how can you possibly do that when the world's most powerful country is led by a man who has profound reservations about free trade?
America won by being America first in the last 70 years. America did a really good job as being a hegemon and leading the world. So I don't think trade is a zero-sum game. I think there are many, many issue areas in which we're discussing in the G20 which allow us to have win-win situations.